Do I still have music on? What's happening? I hear music.
It's here.
Oh, well, make it stop.
I will.
I gotta put this. I'm gonna put a couple of these little pillows of happiness.
Do it. You won't.
And I forgot that the internet was here for a split second before I remembered the internet was here because I was gonna say something completely different.
Oh.
But good morning, internet. I'm Bear from the internet. It's crazy. We have the same address. You're the internet. I'm from the internet. I'm here with my brothers, Jody, Buckets, and Bobbles, and Heath, tactically Torah, and Shalom. And we're going to discuss the new LA riots. It's like, I guess, like, you know how bell bottoms come back like every 20 years or whatever?
Like, are they really new?
You know, that's a fair question.
So this is 3.0 then?
Sure, 9.0? I lost track. I'm waiting for more rooftop Koreans, me personally. Like, we need some little Asian dudes with AKs up on the roof just to handle this problem.
Why not a legit, Red Dawn moment?
Why not? Because everybody likes to talk about Red Dawn moments. Very few people like to do Red Dawn moments.
Yeah.
And then that makes the federal apparatus have an easier job at singling out the individuals that want to do Red Dawn moments. For example, like maybe, co-opting them, coercing them to cut down a 12-gauge shotgun against their will and then shooting their wife in the head while they're holding their baby. Hypothetically speaking. The situation in Los Angeles got heated fast this past Friday when federal immigration agents conducted sweeps across the city, leading to confrontations that had President Trump calling up the National Guard by Saturday. ICE agent, why is it always Saturday? It's like God's like, hey, have a chill day, have a day of rest, and the world's like, nope, no, we're not doing it. ICE agents had multiple locations in central LA executing federal search warrants at 3 different spots. By the end of Friday, officials reported 44 arrests, though some news sources put the total number over 120 by Saturday night. The real trouble started brewing in Paramount, a city of 56,000 people south of LA, where protests near a Home Depot stretched into Saturday. You know what's at Home Depot? All kinds of bad guy stuff. Like, you can build a house or destroy a house with everything that's inside a Home Depot.
That's super true.
Pallets of bricks.
Pallets of bricks.
I've done both.
Like, as a protester or?
Oh, just building and destroying homes,
Same house, different houses.
Well, we make a mess and we clean it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So have you seen that the protesters, have pre-positioned pallets of, they keep calling them bricks. They look like cut stone / cinder blocks.
They do.
That stuff's not cheap. Where are they getting the money from for this?
Right.
I'm probably the same place that got money last time.
Probably. Also, Soros.
There we go. That's the one.
So there's several NGOs that have been identified in California, non-governmental agencies, that are funding these mostly peaceful protests. In fact, the Democratic leadership, if you want to call it that, the politicians haven't even acknowledged the violence that has occurred. They basically just said, listen, everything's fine. Trump shouldn't be deporting all these people. And people have a right to protest. You do have a First Amendment right to protest. You do not have a First Amendment right to break somebody else's stuff, to steal from people, to destroy their property. That there's a line in there, which is why Trump has federalized 2,000 California State National Guardsmen and is deploying 2,000 California State National Guardsmen. There's rumor, there's chatter that the Marine Corps could be sent in as well. But if we go back to the NGOs for a minute, NGOs, by and large, not ours, not Caleb House, not Grindstone, but most of them are funded through federal government contracts, which means our taxpayer dollars, to some degree, have been washed through a handful of NGOs and shadow bank accounts, maybe gone offshore, then come back home again, ended up in the pockets of these NGOs that are then paying protesters and facilitating for these protesters to break the stuff that our taxpayer dollars also paid for.
Right.
right? And so the idea of Trump nationalizing these 2,000 National Guardsmen is at a minimum to protect federal buildings and facilities there in California. Reasonable, I would say. Thoughts?
I mean, on these arrests, what would you say the charges are? I mean, outside of, is it just vandalism?
Probably. I mean, destruction of private property.
But then, like, where do you draw the line? Because in my mind, this is more, it's significantly closer to like premeditated attempt of murder.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially the guys that are, you know, throwing rocks and bricks through windshields.
Right.
There is a line in there. I could see the other side of that where it's like, we have a God-given constitutionally protected right to assemble as part of our First Amendment right. Right? It's not just freedom of speech, it's also freedom of assembly, freedom of worship, etc. There's 5 enumerated rights in the First Amendment, but this isn't that class. So, a peaceful assembly, we're allowed to have those, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go back to COVID where you have jackbooted thugs saying you're not allowed to go to church because you're endangering public safety by assembling.
Right.
No, kiss my ass. We're fellowship and worship and celebrate our Messiah and our Creator the way we see fit. You cannot tell me I can't do that.
Yeah.
And to all the people who folded during COVID on that exact issue, do better this time because they're already working on a COVID 2.0.
Yeah, they are.
And so we have a right to peaceably assemble. It's when it becomes an unlawful assembly, quote unquote, is typically when it begins to become violent and dangerous for other people. And so law enforcement, what is their job? Law enforcement. There's a law on the books that says, hey, you're not allowed to endanger other people. That's reasonable. Yeah. You guys got to go home. And that's more or less what happened in this situation in California, where they were like, no, screw you, ICE. You're not allowed to deport all these people. It turned dynamic. Police cruisers, privately owned vehicles set on fire. There were many peaceful protesters, air quote, observed with Molotov cocktails. There was bulk fuel where they were filling containers to make Molotov cocktails, pre-positioned pallets of bricks. And so I was thinking about this on the way in here. That's a lot of money. Yeah. That's a lot of organization. There were thousands of people there doing what we do with Grindstone. We're highly motivated. We're pretty well organized. We have hundreds of people across North America that come and donate their time and resources to Grindstone to serve. We couldn't get 2,000 people on short notice.
No.
Anywhere. And we're good at what we do.
Yeah.
And if you think about the amount of resources that Grindstone brings to a situation that's embroiled in chaos, okay? Compare that to how many resources have to be deployed in order to go create chaos.
Right.
So this is big, is my point. It's not a spontaneous grassroots thing. It's big. And I think that's something that a lot of people are missing. One does not motivate a couple thousand people to violence at the drop of a hat. Yeah. So, made to happen is my point. What do you think, Jode?
Well, riots in California and people taking it overboard have kind of, I don't want to say always been a thing, but they've kind of always been a thing.
Right.
Which I find wild because California is so overregulated on everything, yet they allow this type of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
There's something going on there, right? It's got an agenda to it, and we all know it.
So the mayor of LA, Karen Bass, she has ties to Cuban communists from her youth. She was, what did they call her? A Reconquista or something like that. She used to visit in her youth Cuba twice a month, Brian Dean Wright from not the President's Daily Brief, formerly the President's Daily Brief, the Wright Report, was reporting on this morning. It's a good bit of reporting. He was saying that she, in her youth, would travel to Cuba as often as twice per year, where she was trained in guerrilla warfare tactics, including Molotov cocktails and improvised explosive devices, incendiary devices, et cetera, et cetera. And so now she's the mayor of LA, a known communist, trained in guerrilla warfare. And there's a spectrum when it comes to guerrilla warfare. Like putting some gasoline in a soda bottle versus like living off the land for years at a time. She was not the North, she wasn't hanging out on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. But this has been a pattern of behavior with her entire life. And so now that the communists are throwing a temper tantrum in LA, it makes me wonder, is this something that she's aware of, or is this something that she has contributed to?
I think the answer is pretty obvious. She's contributed to it.
Well, listen to her response.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the response, and almost justifying the behavior. Mm-hmm. And then, and that's she's adding it to the president's response. Like, 100%. Oh, you're making it worse. And they got a right to, California was built on this. And it's like you're justifying the behavior that's unacceptable that we're talking about, not the protest itself, not the purpose, but the behavior.
Well, the whole, so part of what they're protesting is in the micro, they're protesting these deportations from ICE, Immigration's Custom Enforcement. But in the macro, there's a lot of chatter around like California used to belong to Mexico, we need to return it to Mexico. California was only part of Mexico for 27 years. Prior to that, it was owned by Spain. Okay, and then we became part of the United States via treaty with Mexico. And so I was thinking about this on the way in this morning. 'Twas I, President Trump. And your argument was, we want California back. You're Mexico. And there's 40 million people in California. At least 10% of them are estimated to be illegal immigrants. So that's 4 million people that need to get deported in California. And the argument is, well, we want to take California back. Okay, come and take it. Because now Trump's saying, we'll send Marines in. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State, has echoed that, saying, we'll send Marines in. Let me finish reading part of this brief. Protests started near Home Depot on Saturday. According to sheriff's officials, quote, as the situation escalated, the crowd of protesters became increasingly agitated, throwing objects and exhibiting violent behavior towards federal agents and deputy sheriffs, which, depending on what their ROEs are, what they have qualified immunity for, if you're violent towards a law enforcement officer, you should expect to get your forehead canoed. That should be the expectation. But because we've had an era of defund the police and all this just communist leadership over the majority of my life, law enforcement officers in many cases have been neutered. You see this all the time on these videos on the internet. Like somebody tries to grab a cop's gun in a traffic stop. What do you think's going to happen? You're going to get shot. What do you got?
What would happen if we did the same thing in Mexico?
Oh, that's a great point.
So, and let me give you an example of firsthand experience. So my uncle, good Christian dude, would go down to Mexico and hunt and fish every year. They'd go down and hunt and fish. Well, they had inherited a rifle from a family member, and it wasn't registered in their name. Yep. So when they were at the border and they had all their hunting gear, and they check them every year, it's nothing new. One year there was a rifle in there. You know what they did? They imprisoned him.
Wow.
For 6 months, took the RV, and it cost him $20,000 after 6 months of fighting to get him out of jail over one unregistered gun.
Wow.
When he was always there.
Wow.
Yeah. He got sick. There's people in his prison cell shooting heroin. It was all the stories you hear about.
Yep.
So over very little.
Yep.
So if we flip the script, what would that look like?
100%. And that's a great point. Actions have consequences. And we've removed the consequences from people's behavior for long enough that now when people take violent action against law enforcement, it becomes an outrage when law enforcement responds in like kind, as is their right and responsibility, because all those guys and girls have to go home too, right? Yes, they take a calculated risk. That's why they have a taser and body armor, and they have pistols and rifles and shotguns in their vehicles. And yes, they're taking a calculated risk. They're being compensated to good law enforcement. Again, don't get me started on the jackbooted thugs, but good law enforcement is being compensated in large part to keep the peace. And they have families too. So if you're violent with intent to harm, injure, or kill a law enforcement officer, should you be surprised when they respond in like kind? And they're probably better at it than these protesters are.
I should hope so.
I should hope so. Although we just posted on Refuge, your wife did Saturday evening, yesterday, oh my gosh, law enforcement officer had an injury, looked like to his left wrist. Venous bleeding wasn't terrible, but his buddy runs over. He's on all fours. He's got his hands down. His buddy runs over and goes to throw a tourniquet on him.
I got you, buddy.
This is not exaggeration. My 8-year-old daughter is infinitely better at applying cat tourniquets than that law enforcement officer was. I was like, this is terrible. This is one of the worst TQ applications I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can demonstrate how bad it was. Do we have one that has contrast? Because I got a black shirt on. Here, I'll roll my sleeve up. Okay. Here's a tourniquet. So.
That's enough contrast, yeah.
Thanks, man. So the guy goes over the arm, right, as you're supposed to. So the officer had his hand on the ground. The other officer was trying to figure out, like, how do I get this under there instead of just taking it out of the buckle and going around.
Yeah.
Okay. Which you can all the way do. That's protocol for impinged limbs. So he gets it. The other cop gets it around. Let's see. It was oriented this way. And then he pulls like that, goes.
No, he goes the opposite.
No, he all the way went.
Oh, that's
the
right.
Opposite.
He went
the windlass.
Yeah.
And
this way,
through the sequence.
like that, and around like that.
Oh my goodness.
And then, how many turns did he give it? Was it 1 or 2?
I didn't even see him turn it.
I didn't see him turn it.
Oh yeah, you're right. I don't even know if he turned it. So essentially that is how he put the tourniquet on. That is not how you do it. I'll go through this real quick because it's relevant, right? And a lot of people think, well, when the cops arrive, this situation will get better from a medical standpoint. Cops are not trained medical professionals. Many of them are not even trained in their own trauma medicine, TCCC, for themselves, their partners, their agency.
Yeah.
It's one of the cool things that Refuge gets to do is we get to go train law enforcement officers in TCCC for themselves, their partners, and their agency.
We need to reach out to whoever knows that officer.
Yep.
And that precinct.
It's like, come to class. Please come to class.
We want to train you.
Just show up. Okay. So rule of thumb, you put your thumb on the C-clip, this part right here. You go over the extremity. There's a divot right here where the deltoid meets the tricep. That's ideally where we want to go. We're going to pull towards our center line. We're going to ratchet down. Pull that nice and tight. Stop before the C-clip. Give this, oh, I got it good. So 2 is going to be plenty.
Oh, yeah.
1 turn
There
past
it
bad
is.
words in training. Turn the windlass until you visually observe the bleeding stop in the real world. You take the tail of the tourniquet, go between the C-clip, and you can stop here, or you can come around the windlass, go back through the C-clip like so, take the time tab, go over the top to retain it, and that's on.
That's what I teach.
Beautifully. You got the video? Yeah, play the video. Look at the difference. Because I got that. That is on.
Good job.
Oh, yeah, I
Oof.
seen it. I
Yeah.
seen it when you sucked it down. Yeah. There it is.
There it is. Let me know when you're playing it, Dud.
About to.
Okay. He's about to, everyone.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. Send it. Oh yeah, it's graphic. It's not graphic. It's just got a little bit of blood.
I don't want to see why. I don't care about that.
No, don't see why. We're so good at this. Just watch the bottom. Click the bottom. Watch anyway.
There it is. Oh, it wasn't even staged right.
Nope.
No, it wasn't
No,
staged at all.
it wasn't staged. It was in its original. They took the plastic off of it and stuck it in a carrier on their belt. Now, praise the Father, they had a tourniquet.
Oh, wrong way.
But look at how.
It did.
One turn.
One turn.
Oh, no.
One turn.
I got you, buddy.
You actually don't.
No. And also, so from a TCCC standpoint, where is he? He doesn't even have concealment, to say nothing of cover.
No, he's
He's in the middle of the road. The other officer's there with him in the middle of the road. He's got an injury to his arm. Okay? So, are your legs broken? You got any holes in your legs? Get up. Move. Get off
so
the
bad.
X. Don't stay here. You can't stay here.
Yeah.
Like-
Secure that firearm, too.
Bro.
Right, man.
Bro,
You just
exactly.
got to land on the ground.
Get
Like-
up. You're still in the fight. Keep moving.
And again, this is not to, I'm not trying to give law enforcement an unnecessary hard time, but
It's
look at where they are.
There's a severe psychological disconnect because he's just down on all fours.
Yep.
And then the moment the tourniquet is applied, and that's purely psychological here.
Yep.
The only reason why he got up was because the tourniquet was applied in incorrect fashion.
So, well-aimed fire from a pistol, to say nothing of a rifle, could take both of those officers out at this point.
Easy.
Easy.
Yep.
Easy.
And they're super distracted.
100%. So from a
That's tunnel vision all the way.
it's a total fail from a TCCC standpoint. And so all this to say, we'll circle back around to the topic at hand. Doing violence towards law enforcement should result, you should have the expectation that it will result in violence done towards you.
Yeah.
But we've lost that as a country. By Saturday evening, things had gotten serious enough that Trump signed a memorandum authorizing at least 2,000 National Guard peoples, just people, not furries, to deploy to LA. The president didn't mince words about his reasoning, posting on social media, if Governor Gavin Newsom of California and Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles can't do their jobs, which everyone knows they can't, then the federal government will step in and solve the problem. Riots and looters, all caps, the way it should be solved. Governor Newsom, or Newscomb, pushed back hard against the federal takeover, calling Trump's plan purposefully inflammatory, saying it will only escalate tensions. He sucks. He's just terrible. You remember during COVID when people were being arrested on the beaches of California for swimming with a mask on, and he got caught at that private restaurant function that was like packed to capacity, and they're all hanging out drinking cocktails, no PPE,
mask,
no
nothing.
nothing. Yeah, that's unfortunately not enough people remember that. Somehow that a-hole keeps getting
That
elected.
dude is all the way, if not tippy top, he's at the top of the list for scumbag of the year.
Let me tell you why he gets elected. So Northern California doesn't really have representation, which is why Northern California pushes for the state of Jefferson,
Yep.
the big divide, right?
Yep.
And I think California would look a lot different if they did have proper representation for Northern California, but they don't. Most of it comes out of the Bay Area and Los Angeles.
Yep.
And that is Central and Southern California, way different than the people in Northern California. And if you're out there in NorCal, bless you, brother.
My mother-in-law lives in NorCal, and she's awesome. Like she's like, you know what? I don't want to upset her.
The Barbs are from California.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
Awesome
like that's
people.
that kind of people.
awesome people.
Yeah.
I'll just say like a lot of the things that we have going on here, my mother-in-law has going on there. And so, but just you're right, the Great Divide, right? The state of Jefferson has been a thing I've been aware of for like at least 20 years.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
I mean, if you drive up Highway 5, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll see signs in Northern California up in the mountains all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well,
it's just part of it. They have been pushing for their own voice.
That's it's similar to how it was with me growing up in upstate New York. The 7 counties downstate, you know, the 5 boroughs, and Rockland County on the west side, Westchester County on the east side of the Hudson River. And then it started creeping up from there, you know, up to about Middletown, New York, and Orange County. Those were all the bleeding heart, liberal, hardcore, leftist type people. And not that, painting with broad brushstrokes here, there were still some conservative type people in those areas too. But then once you got outside of that, like you actually got into upstate New York, other than a handful of the city areas, which, you know, define a city. You know, some of those cities in upstate New York don't even qualify as towns around here. But, you know, I went to school with a 12 gauge and a 30-06 hunting rifle in my truck, and I'm not that old, you know, and it was just normal. When hunting season rolled around, there was no children in school for 2 weeks because this is how we're going to put food on the table, right? Like, if we mess up this harvest, we don't eat this winter, you know. In the summers, baling hay. You know, and people hear, you know, they hear that, Barry, you're from New York, and they think like the whole state is made of concrete. It's not. Like upstate New York's
They
beautiful.
hear New York and
beautiful.
they think Manhattan Island.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not
like,
the same thing.
You know, they're like, you had horses and cows and chickens in New York? Like, yeah, we were on a 10th floor walk up, and we had the cows in this bedroom and the chickens in that bedroom. No, like we lived on land, you know. But the political divide between upstate and downstate New York was huge. But because all the people and all the money was downstate, it didn't matter if the capital was technically upstate. If Albany was upstate, dude, there were people just going back and forth between New York City and Albany all the time from a political standpoint. And the real power base was in New York City, not in the capital.
Yeah.
And so most of the state geographically, the vast majority of the landmass was unrepresented or underrepresented because there were more people and more money in those 7 counties downstate. Yeah. And so the whole state is a blue state from an electoral standpoint when it's not. Well, I don't know. I have voluntarily not stepped foot in New York in 20 years. So maybe it is now, but it wasn't 20 years ago.
I mean, you see similarities. I mean, even in Texas now.
That's a great point.
You know, predominantly, historically, it's always been a red state. But then you've got, you know, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas basically taking over the show for the entirety of the state. And that state's massive.
How come it always just seems to be the built-up areas?
Because that's where the people are.
Population density, man.
Yep. Because that's, I mean, think about Arkansas.
It's the whole purpose of the
the Walmart corridor, I-49, right? Fayetteville, Springdale, Bentonville.
Money belt.
The money belt, right? Yeah. And it's, I have a theory on this. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's based upon observation. When there's a lower population density, you have to be more self-reliant. So therefore, you're a more rugged individual. Like, you know, we pave our own roads, right? Literally. We tell the county to turn around and go home. We got this, all right? So much so, we pave our own roads. We operate our own businesses. We have our own faith group. We raise our own kids. Like we handle it ourselves because we are in one of the more populous counties of Oklahoma, outside of Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And there's still not a whole bunch of people here.
Right.
So because we have to be more self-reliant people tend to tread in the conservative direction. Leave me alone, I got it, okay? And I'll help you voluntarily if you're a good person. So, but then as you build up a higher and higher population density, in order to steward that number of people, and it starts as stewardship, you need more infrastructure and hierarchy. you need captains of tens, captains of hundreds, captains of thousands,
Right.
in order to make sure that this district over here gets the water that they need, and this district over here gets the school that they need, and we got to be able to get back and forth to pave all these roads, and then it starts getting built up. And in the process of getting built up, people cede more and more personal authority to local governance, which then makes it relatable and makes it understandable to cede authority to the state government and the federal government, and they start outsourcing their charity to somebody else. The state will take care of the widow, I don't have to. Well, when you live rurally, there's no one to take care of the widow but me, so we're going to make sure the widow gets taken care of. When you live in the cities, there's all these people, this population density is so high that we accept a higher taxation rate because we believe that some of that money will go to food pantries and shelters and programs to help the widow, to help the orphan. And then people, because they need more services, because there's more people, the government has to grow larger to provide more services. And then the government goes from stewardship to exploitation. And then you end up over here on the more liberal end of the spectrum, because if you think about, like, every group, every population has a certain statistical distribution of weirdos in it, right?
Yeah.
It's just a fact. Like,
100%.
like we, as compared to most people, are weird. We're good weird, but we're weird, right? And so you're still going to have a distribution of weirdos. You get more people. If it's 1 per 1,000 people, that's like a true weirdo, right?
Right.
Well, when you only got 1,000 people amongst the 3 or 4 towns over here, there's that one weird guy, and we all know that's the one weird guy, okay? So maybe don't interact with him, right? Don't send your kids over there to play. That guy is weird. Well, now you have 100,000 people. Now we have 100 weirdos. You got 1 million people. Now we got 1,000 weirdos, right? And so now we even have to institutionalize how we deal with the weirdos. And so smaller populations tend to tread towards the conservative end because we have to be more rugged individualistic. Higher population densities tend to trend more in the liberal end, socialist end, because they've built up this population density that requires, in order to be able to stand under its own weight, requires that hierarchy and that structure that people then pay more taxes for.
But so much of that is subject to this. I want to say it's just really the simple nature of individuals truly just giving up on personal responsibility.
Yep.
It's no wonder why we're dealing with the things that we're dealing with. And you have so many people who would rather just stand there and take the rectangle of death and film what's going on versus actually stepping in, becoming the peacemaker in the situation and standing for righteousness and truth or anything like that, or anything that's good, so that now they're mayor in LA trying to justify evil for good.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, this is another thing that I think is fascinating just to ponder on for a second. Like, most of the world, not just this country, but most of the world is rural. There's more country than there is city.
100%.
But most of the people live in the city and don't know how to operate in the country,
Yeah.
which is not good, you know. So,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, it's good for us,
Yep.
but it's going to suck for them at some point.
Insert country boy will survive.
And that's not to say that there aren't some good people in the cities. There are.
There are.
And I get, I've got to be here because this is where the work is, and I got to support my family until I can make a jump to where I need to be.
There are a lot of awesome people in the cities with really incredible tangible skills, that keep that system going, who are, in all arguments, really going without representation themselves.
100%.
Yeah, I agree with
It's
that.
100%. It's just that the larger the group of individuals that you get together, the higher the quantity of weirdos, of outliers you're gonna have, right? And so a lot of then from an impact standpoint, it's like why do terrorists target cities? There's more targets. There's these riots that are happening in LA aren't happening in East Overshoe, Indiana, because nobody would care, and they would get shot by the residents of East Overshoe, Indiana.
Yeah.
Right? And so not only is it a permissive environment for shenanigans in LA, but there's also a lot more eyeballs in LA. And so that's why cities tend to get targeted, which is part of why strategic relocation, if you are feeling a call to not be in the city, you should probably go, because we don't have those problems out here. You know, we had in Trump 1.0, when he was running for election the first time, we had one BLM march in downtown Poto, and which is like the capital of the county around here, you know. And so they got up on the courthouse, on the lawn, and up on the steps of the courthouse, and there were about 200 people who were there, and there were about 200 people who were marching, and between us and at least one other mutual assistance group in the area. What's up, Jason? I know he watches the show. Good dude. And the county sheriffs and the local law enforcement and Oklahoma Highway Patrol and fire and EMS, we were 1-to-1 with the marchers. And I'll tell you who we had the biggest problem with was there was a small but vocal group, maybe 10 or 12 Trump supporters on one corner of one street who were being really loud and nasty to the people who were marching. The people who were marching were, and I'm no simp for BLM, just so we're on the same page here, but this is what actually happened. The people who were marching were peaceful, and they were respectful of everybody else's property.
And good for them.
And good for them.
Great job.
But what had spun us up was that there were pallets of bricks being pre-positioned around Poto. And
who was doing that?
Well, Intel, come to find out, the Economic Development Corporation had planned work to begin to repair the facades of downtown Poto, which is why there were pallets of bricks being pre-positioned around Poto, which then it's like, okay, well, we know who bought the bricks, but there's still pallets of bricks around the city. That's a problem. So anyway, it was the 10 or 12 Trump supporters that as people were marching by, they were being really provocative and nasty and saying some really and racist things. And so I walked over there and they're like, "What's up, brother? It's good to have you on our side." I was like, "Hey, man, you have the right to peaceably protest just like they do. But I'm not on your side. I'm not on their side. I'm on nobody's side but my side, because my offices, at the time we had a little 500 square foot office down there, my offices are here. And nobody's gonna break our shit. And if you break our shit, I'll break you. Simple as that." And because they felt emboldened by our presence, because we were there with several dozen people, some of which were plainclothes, some of which were overt. And they felt emboldened by our presence because most of us are white, and they assumed that we were on their team. And I wanted them to know, if you get your ass in the sling, I'm not on your team. You did this. And so they changed their tune really quick. And everybody was peaceful, and that was good. But they can't and they won't, they can't and won't pull something like what's happening in LA in a little podunk Poto, Oklahoma, because there's no cameras there. And if they did try to set a police cruiser on fire, Poto PD is awesome. It's about every 6 months they shoot somebody. They're good at it. Yeah. And they shoot people who deserve it. There was a guy a couple years ago went into a glass storefront, was trying to rob the place, and had a knife out threatening a girl, and there was a cop driving by, saw it, banged a Huey, pulled in, opened the door, the guy goes to turn, and he just, boom, thumbs him. Reholsters his weapon, he's like, "Are you okay, sweetie?" And she's like, "Oh, thank God."
Great shot.
And he's like, yeah, just boom. I mean, they go to the gym that we go to, and they're in there getting after, right? Good dudes. And so
I'm so encouraged to know that like our local Leos actually train
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
when so many don't.
What are you yelling at us about, Doug?
Good. He got me.
Hey, Jody, microphone.
It's the beard, bro. Look at that beard. What are you trying out for Pharaoh? What?
Moshe.
Moshe, I like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a much better
Yeah,
answer.
yeah.
Okay. Have you guys seen the AI Bible videos that have been going around?
Yes.
Okay, thoughts. What do you guys think?
No. Just
I mean,
don't.
it's a lot of what I've seen are satirical
Mm-hmm.
to where, like, you know, like Samson with the jawbone of an ass, but he's got an iPhone,
Yeah.
right? I love comedic stuff like that. I think it's really cool, but it does present the picture of almost a level of depravity that we've sunk into.
Mm-hmm.
So it's multifaceted for me because I really enjoy that kind of humor. But man,
Jode?
Well, so I don't know that the humor ones I don't really pay attention to too much because they're not really funny to me. But the ones where you can obviously tell that AI is trying to make sense of this and tell a story, but it's so out of context
true.
Mm-hmm.
and almost like a false narrative, like a story, like it's almost pretend versus it being real.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the stuff that happened in the Word's real.
Yep.
It's not pretend. It's not a story. It's not like that. These are events that happened, and when it gets painted that way, to me, it's a little blasphemy, especially with AI doing it.
But with that said, the problem that I see in all of that is so many people don't read their Bibles,
And they
Yep.
think
and
it's
how
real.
many people now take Chosen for example. How many people only know the story of Jesus because of that show?
Yep.
Which praise the Father for it.
Yep.
But at the same time, so many people are so enamored and glued to the phone and AI becoming this thing that it is.
Mm-hmm.
It can spin and twist to manipulate regardless of context,
So
whatever the story to be. And that is all people will really know. Oh, well, that's biblical.
I've got two concerns with it. They are on one level entertaining to me. And I've had like a bunch of y'all in the Bear Nation have sent them to me, especially on Instagram. Like Forgotten Friend, David, our big fella
Yeah.
from the Ruckus.
Great dude.
Pushing his bulldog in a stroller with 125 pounds on his back, rucking. Animal. He sent me a few, and he's like, what do you think of this? And on the one hand, like the one with Moses and Aaron, where they're like, you know, we told Pharaoh to let us go, and he was like, no. And then like Aaron's in the background like, #plagues, you know?
Right.
And then he's like, he said we could go, but then he changed his mind. And they're like running with torches at night, and they're running towards the sea. And like, on the one hand, it's like, how interesting. On the other hand, my concern is people that don't know what the word says will buy the narrative that's produced by AI as is, this is the truth, and now we are in a false prophet context. And we've gotten to
I've
the
been
point.
saying it, bro.
We've gotten to the point where if it is, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, we are getting to the point where if it's digital, not face-to-face, you can't trust it. You cannot trust it. I've been on the internet for 7, almost 8 years. There are 7,500 pieces of content of me talking. You could get AI to make me say anything. And right now,
Or do anything.
gross. Right now, there's still a little bit of what they call uncanny valley, where you can tell that's not quite perfect. But with Google's VO3,
They're well on their way.
It's
man.
just a matter of time, and
I'm so sorry, but they're actually, I've seen lately several commercials, even on YouTube, to where it's like all of these different scenarios, and these people are talking. You can't trust this.
Yep.
This is AI. You know, a girl in a dark room.
mm-hmm.
Grandma, don't pick up the phone.
Yep.
You can't trust this because I'm not real. I'm
Yep.
AI.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And-
Like all of these different things. That's so real.
And so it goes back to, for me, we have a handful of abilities that the computers will never have.
Yeah.
Number one, we can feel, and they cannot. And I can feel your vibe. You can feel my vibe, right? And we know. So and you could take that feeling of vibe and quantify it as wisdom and discernment from the Holy Spirit, which that robot will never have.
Yep.
Which means we need to be interacting with each other face to face. And as these existential crisis rectangles continue to try and pull us apart and isolate us,
Yeah.
we need to resist that and forsake not the gathering together, even as you see the day approaching, so that we can be together as one body, as the body of Messiah, and corporately breathe, respirate, ruach together.
This is every bit of this is exactly why this is Heath looking into Revelation 13, and the beast that comes out.
Yep.
And the governmental authorities and powers hand their authority over to this thing, and they say, who can war against this?
Yep.
I believe that's AI.
Great.
Yep.
My policy stands for Sasquatch, robots, aliens, whatever. Shoot it in the face. Shoot it in the face some more. Shoot it in the face till it goes down. Then shoot it in the face again, and just keep going. And there will come a time. There will come a time where we, the people of Messiah, cannot use these technologies anymore.
Yeah.
Just the digital exhaust that comes off of one of these devices, bro, you are carrying a target packet for yourself in your pocket every day. Every day. And so sooner or later, life will become non-permissive for believers in Messiah. That's prophesied, and the servant is not greater than the master. And the master was killed by his own government because of an insider threat, because of a snitch. And you carry a snitch in your pocket every day. And so do I. Let's finish up this brief and then go to the national intel, which I did not read on Friday, mostly because Dudley's so entertaining that I forgot. As for a federal response, Trump used Title X authority to federalize the National Guard, a rarely used legal mechanism that allows the president to take control when there's a rebellion against government authority or when regular forces can't execute federal law. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warned that active duty Marines, quote, will be mobilized, end quote, if violence continues in LA. Now, Mike, who was a doctor of Marines, asked me when I got in here, he goes, what do you think is the difference between the National Guard and the Marine Corps? And my first thought is the Marines are known for making the grass grow. Okay? How do we make the grass grow? Blood, blood, blood. And so just the optics of if you're trying to force compliance, the National Guard's one thing. The United States Marine Corps is another thing.
Yeah.
They have, what do Marines do? Break shit and kill people and eat crayons on occasion, okay? And they're good at it, right? And so I think the optics of sending in the Marine Corps, now there's some conversation here about, well, why not the Army? Why not the 82nd? Why not the 101st? Posse Comitatus. The Marine Corps is a separate branch, separate agency inside of the Navy, maritime law, the whole nine. Okay, but the Marine Corps can go in. I'd be really interested if the Marines go in, how do they go in? Are they issued ammunition? What are they doing? You know, because that could get ugly quick. And while it's probably probably justified in my mind in this situation. What happens when it's us? And the unlawful assembly is we're reading our Bibles, go back to COVID, and we now have a precedent where it's like, oh, well, the Marines can break this up.
But is it, is it just the Marines? Are they also going to send in, naval special warfare?
There's rumor that they're already on the ground.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, to just take a look at what is in or on the West Coast for.
Yep. Well, not only
venue.
that, how many retired former special guys
100%
are there already? Yep. And most of them have their own LLC that they do contracting underneath somebody else's umbrella LLC. And a lot of these guys, real specimens of humanity, these guys, have the ability, they've been trained over their career to blend in and look like a normal person.
Yeah.
That is not a normal person. They have extraordinary capabilities. And so I would wager that those types of people are already on the ground, have been on the ground, gathering real-time pre-operational intelligence to then pass that off to when the Marine Corps comes in or when the National Guard comes in or whoever it is. Hey, 90% of our problem children are coming from right over here. Okay, cool. But yeah, they're probably at this point running collections, if not persistent collections, which means they have the data from everybody's rectangles, so they know who's who. I'll say it again: if you're gonna go do something sketchy, don't bring your rectangle. So anyway, point is, I think those guys are already there, and it could potentially get ugly, could turn into a bloodbath. Probably won't, but could.
Yeah.
And if it does turn into a bloodbath, you think the Democrats are pissed at Trump now? Just wait. You have one Marine somewhere cranks off, 3 rounds, and it's over.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of circling back, wait until it's, the unlawful assembly, for us, right? Well, you made a point, what's the difference between the Marine Corps and the National Guard? Mindset.
Yep.
Their training mindset is not the same.
Yep.
At all. Not the same. They're, look at what they do a lot of, they don't do battle stuff. That's not really it. And unless it's on a national security level, right?
Yep.
Which is more for the coast and invade anything like that, right? So it's not Marine Corps. It's you send those guys into
kill people and break stuff.
Yeah, that's it, and that's it. So
how much of that is just a show of power, for the Marines to pull security while clandestine ops are actually under play?
I don't know. I think if you look at the reason they're riding, and I'm a little bit of devil advocate here. Trump's first go around, ICE was a big thing, and they were big time separating families, right? And so for ICE, they're easy picking. They're not really singling out the real criminals and the stuff that we would want addressed first.
Yep.
They're easy picking stuff, and that's probably a lot of the pushback from the public is because they're easy picking versus getting the actual criminals. And there is a lot of separation of families, which I think is unrighteous in the manner that they're doing it. But I don't know that there's a way to really even that out right now. I don't think there's a policy for it or a way to really keep it fair or righteous. It's just it's real muddy in that area. And so push back on that. Does it justify behavior and what they're doing? Absolutely not.
Yep.
Because you can be heard with show of presence and with your the way that you represent, right? With your candor, that what you're saying, how you're standing, how you're behaving. If you behave righteous, it's gonna get noticed.
You bring up a really good point. One should not assume that the protesters' actions are sanctioned by the people who on whose behalf they are protesting, if that makes sense.
Yep.
the protesters are seizing on the opportunity to have an impact against Trump.
Yeah.
Not necessarily sanctioned by the people who are being deported. And so, because again, this is a well-coordinated protest.
Yeah.
And something Mike Shelby at Forward Observer has done a really good job of battle tracking over the years is whether or not we're going to have another summer of love this year. And one of the things that he's been saying for a long time is he just doesn't see, A, the funding, B, the organization, C, the grassroots upswelling of sentiment in order to essentially have cities burn this summer. But it is riot season again. We're in June. This could be an attempt at that because why? Why would they want to do this to the Trump administration? Well, number one, the optics suck. Number two, it's harassing fire, if you will. It's not necessarily stopping everything that Trump's doing,
Right.
but it is forcing him to take his eye off the ball over here and go deal with this thing. Third layer, you know what we're not talking about right now? Epstein files.
Mm-hmm.
You know what else we're not talking about? Palantir.
Yep.
We're also not talking about the economy. We're not talking about Ukraine. We're not talking about China. We're not talking about Russia. All these other things that are going on. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about Los Angeles, California, that for most people doesn't affect them at all. Like
Right.
even a little bit. Whereas Palantir will. The economy definitely does. If Putin, Keir Starmer in Britain has committed to give Ukraine another 100,000 drones to replicate the drone swarm attack that went down last week, which, by the way, the United States of America is completely vulnerable to. Perhaps even more so because vast swaths of Russia are completely unoccupied. Not that case in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we are completely susceptible to that type of attack. And if it was me, if I was the bad guy, if I was wearing Kevin's hat, wherever he went over there, I'm the bad guy hat, yeah, I would today, I know how to take the United States power grid, all of it offline.
Yeah.
Today, using drone swarms. And cold start, you're talking 12 to 36 months to get the grid back up. Now you go to the DOE white paper on 90% of people die within 12 months of a loss of grid
Yeah.
power. Okay, is that an effective attack? Yup, and 0 shots fired.
Yep.
We will eat our own. And so this thing that's happening in LA, it's not that it's not important, it's not that it's not interesting, but we're not talking about all these other things that are going on behind the scenes.
How very convenient.
Yeah, did you see, we've got to get to the national intel, but did you see Trump on the Howard Stern show years ago talking about how 12-year-old Paris Hilton was hot?
Nope.
Yep. Howard Stern should be, let's just be honest, at least drug behind a pickup truck. Maybe feet first into a wood chipper. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of things. And that's another thing with this existential crisis rectangle. The speed at which information moves now is too fast for the average human being to keep up with.
Right. And Jody brought something up with, the whole ICE thing going on. How much of that, especially with the first iteration of Trump's presidency, how much of that was potentially, or what we're experiencing now, potentially implemented back then?
Mm-hmm.
You had James Comey,
Mm-hmm.
and basically nearly the entire government completely against him in a clandestine fashion that we didn't know until the end. And how much of that was orchestrated and perpetuated to continue even now? How much of that's going on now? Not to say that Trump is any great leader or anything. I mean, I believe he was placed there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially to facilitate a bankruptcy that
Yep.
we're going through, whatever the case may be. But I do think that there's a lot that's going on that's significantly more than what meets the eye.
You know how you drain a swamp? You backfill it.
Mm.
Dud, you want to run those two things back to back?
Okay.
All right, send it.
Hey everyone, it's Lissa here to bring you an update on the construction side of Caleb House. We have been very busy this year. We've completed Care House 1, fully furnished and ready to go. We have built our water department this year, which is the nicest well house you've ever seen. We have one other house that's in its framing stage, and we'll be drying that in here in the next month and getting it ready for interior finishing. And we are doing the in-ground work for our administration building, which will house all of our white-collar workers, our therapy, medical, legal, and also be an educational space for the kids with an industrial kitchen and all kinds of learning opportunities. So thank you so much for your support on this beginning of the year, and I can't wait to see where we go with the rest of 2025.
Mine's small. I need more pack.
All right, we're back from the restroom. Let's see. National Intel. Intel@bearindependent.com is the email address you send this to. Intel@bearindependent.com. What's the address? Intel@bearindependent.com. I was supposed to do this Friday, but Dudley was so entertaining that I forgot.
He was.
So this is all stuff that y'all have sent in to us. And so when I read this in the first person, understand it was somebody else. I live in Lincoln County, North Carolina, and I've noticed a large number of tag reader cameras. This just seems odd to me. Mostly the ones on rural western end of the county seem out of place to me. Not sure why they're being put up, but I've been trying to take an alternative route and not drive by them. Okay, well, if you're worried about getting in the database, all they got to do is get you once. So if you've already driven by them, you're already driven by them. If you're worried about pattern of life, that depends on what kind of vehicle that you have. If it's pre-OnStar GPS, Google Maps in your vehicle, you might be okay. If it's post-OnStar Google Maps in your vehicle, you're just wasting your time trying to take an alternate route.
Geofencing's a real thing.
Geofencing's a real thing. Ozark Incel. Incel. What does Incel stand for? Incelibate? Is that like all those dudes that was just like modern women are trash, we're just gonna like play Dungeons and Dragons in our mom's basement and not. Ozark Intel. Local work economy. Multiple local places have reduced hours. Shifts are getting hard to pick up at temp employment offices. Gig workers are trying to find money, but even DoorDash and Instacart don't have reliable runs. It's rural, so there's a larger population of homebound seniors who would normally ask for these services. However, many locals say with inflation and the ridiculous fees, they've had to resort to going back to the old standard, which is having friends, family, or caregivers get them whatever whenever they have a chance. DoorDash and such services were more of a luxury because they could get groceries on the day they chose instead of when someone was available. I work multiple gig jobs and have seen across the board in all industries less work. I work in ad sales, merchandising, and customer service for multiple companies. Most of these type of work orders have declined significantly. The only work orders I have had syntax. The only work orders I have that have had a steady increase are in photography for foreclosures and banks that want to purchase and lend on properties. I don't know how long this line of work will continue, but it's usually distressed or abandoned properties that are being assessed for damages by large corporations.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. You see, BlackRock has an entire webpage about how we're not the ones buying all of the homes in North America. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're like, you're thinking of Blackstone. Oh, like the grill? You know why Disney put out a movie called Frozen? Honestly, do you know?
No.
It's because they were getting tired of people Googling Walt Disney Frozen. the whole thing. What they did was an SEO optimization, search engine optimization on Disney Frozen. So they produced a movie called Disney Frozen so that when people would Google Walt Disney cryogenically frozen, all the search engines would return Disney Frozen the movie. Facts. And so it's the same thing with BlackRock putting out a website. It's like, we're not the ones buying all the houses. And the whole point there is to trick the AI and the internet into returning these top search results, the ones that get the most traction, which then serves as a disinformation campaign because most people are retarded and believe whatever they see on the screen at first glance without doing any digging whatsoever, which is part of the danger of AI because AI searches, if you use like Google AI, ChatGPT, whatever, it searches the top rated search results, not the most accurate search results. And so the information that it's feeding back to you is the information that they want you to have, not what the actual truth is, which goes back to the false prophet, AI, Bible videos, and all of that.
Yep.
During last week, Bear referenced somebody who was arrested for passing classified info. I don't remember which episode. He brought up all the classified documents in Biden's garage and that nothing ever happened with that situation. And that this guy who got arrested is getting the book thrown at him. I have a real-world story that I experienced and wanted to share. After 36 years, I retired from Raytheon in 2017 and had TSSCI at that time, top secret, sensitive, compartmentalized information. It's not the highest, but it's an extremely high security clearance. My cousin worked at Raytheon for a while, making missiles in Alaska. Don't ask any more questions, so that's all I can tell you. We totally don't have missiles in Alaska. Don't worry about it. Anyway, some years before that, there was a big Hillary Clinton server scandal, server in the closet scandal. One morning, I read the headline on the Drudge Report. This is before that website turned into another lefty mess, but that's a rabbit hole. The headline consisted of a screenshot of a document off of her server. When I saw it, I gasped and almost blew coffee all over my keyboard. It contained what we call in the business a lot of bad words that should not be out of their environment, and it was the highest level of bad words. I went immediately to our special program security office to report this. I spoke with a guy there, I will call him Bob, who I've known for a long time. I told him about the website and what was on there and this is where it got interesting. I told him, quote, if this was me who put this information out, the boys from the FBI would be here in a heartbeat and I'd be wearing bracelets as they walked me out the door, end quote. From experience, that's one thing I know about the aerospace business. You break one of those security rules and a major one like this, and they are on you like flies on poop and fast. I have seen it happen. He, Bob, just looked off into space and would not say anything. Then the light bulb came over my head. Okay, I get it now. The fix is in. You've been directed not to comment on any of this, and you're doing a good job following your directive, but it's still wrong. I just left and went back to work, very disheartened about the entire thing. Another real-world example of rules for thee, but not for me.
Yep.
That really disturbed me for some time, being in that environment with all the rules we have to follow, and they just have it all ignored due to somebody who is like a Clinton, who is, period, syntax. Well, that's my story. Use it however you like. I love your show, so keep up the good work, and I reconfigured all of my tourniquets so that they deploy correctly. Good job. They were all wrong before and after watching your tutorial. I fixed them all. I did an inventory and inspection of the tourniquets I do have and found a couple of them that are cheap plastic Chinese knockoffs, which I have purged from my stock and have them in my training bucket as you suggested. I replaced them with real tourniquets I got from you. Thank you for all you do and congrats on your growing family. Awesome. We got a few more here. We okay on time, Dud?
Great on time.
Okay, I'll try and speed through this.
Go as long as you need.
Well, yeah, I know, but the longer the live stream goes, the worse it does on replay because the replay crew's like an hour and a half. No way. But whatever. Boulder, Colorado, Pearl Street Mall, 1300 block of Pearl Street in front of the historical courthouse and surrounding areas. As I left the grocery store, I heard more sirens than I've ever heard at one time. On my way home on a major thoroughfare through town on which I also live, I pulled over to allow emergency vehicles to pass. Not unusual. I turned on the city police scanner as soon as I could. After about 30 minutes, agencies involved changed radio channels. Another half an hour later, articles, posts, and videos started to come on social and legacy media. Attack on peaceful pro-Israeli group of about 30 to 40 people that walk on the Pearl Street Mall every Sunday. A man started shouting and throwing Molotov cocktails. 3 to 5 people with burn injuries taken to local hospital. Suspect has been caught. Scene is being secured as there is a possible bomb threat in the area as well. I live 1 mile from this. By the way, there's a Blue Ridge Highway in Tennessee. You see there was an embedded IED in the roadway. Bomb squad had to respond to that. We are not as safe here as people want to think that we are.
Not even.
Not even kind of. Brief sidebar, I was doing some research for an upcoming class that we get to perform. And we know from the Committee on TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care, there are 19,000 known applications of CAT tourniquets during the global war on terror, with 13,000 known applications of the soft T in all of its different generations during GWAT. It's 32,000-ish tourniquet applications during a 20-year period. It's about 1,500 a year, about 5 a day, 4 a day, somewhere in that, 4 to 5 a day. And if you're combat arms in the military, you understand that you have to have your kit at the point of injury because response times are going to be not minutes, but hours, could be days, depending on the situation, right?
Yeah.
And so since we don't know where the point of injury is going to be, you have to carry the kit on you. Okay, makes total sense, right? IFAC, individual first aid kit, 32,000 tourniquet applications in 20 years. During that same period of time, 100,000 people died at work. Workplace fatalities. There were 2.6 million workplace injuries just last year, 2024. And so we have this paradigm where if you go half a world away into war, you should absolutely have a first aid kit on you because you're probably going to need it. When statistically, you're 3 times more likely to die at work. But because senators don't get rich on people dying at work, it's underreported. Raytheon doesn't make billions of more dollars selling cruise missiles to the local gas station or to the school up the street. And so it's underreported. We never touch on any of that. But during the same period where 32,000 tourniquets were applied during the global war on terror, 100,000 people died at work. But you don't need it. Don't worry, you don't need a first aid kit. It's fine. You don't need to know CPR and AED. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And we're just so like, we just cruise through life like everything's fine and it's gonna be fine. You ever been in a major car wreck?
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a major car wreck?
Mm-hmm.
I've been in a major car wreck. Dud, you ever been in a major car wreck?
Yes, sir.
Lauren, you ever been in a major car wreck?
Nope. I've been in fire one.
Praise the Father. I know my wife's been in several major car wrecks. Hey, Mike, you ever been in a major car wreck?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you went to war. So, okay. What about Philip? You ever been in a major car wreck? Nope. Okay, we got 2 so far that haven't been. Terry, you ever been in a major car wreck? Yes, he says. What about Jen? No? Okay. We got 6 yes, 3 no. Christine, you ever been in a major car wreck?
Said no.
Okay. I know
rolled up on one.
I know Doc has, but Lauren says she rolled up on one.
She died.
She died, the one that you rolled up on.
Yeah.
It was right in front of the office, actually.
Yep.
Right down there.
Last summer.
Yep. So 2/3 of people in this building have been in a major car wreck.
Yep.
2/3. And the ones that haven't been, some of our people have responded to major car wrecks.
Yep.
We're just stress inoculated to it. It's no big deal. But now there's IEDs in the highway. The America that we grew up in doesn't exist
You
anymore.
said Tennessee.
Yep.
Coming back,
Yep.
well, a couple instances when we were coming back from Helene and then, of course, from Selmer, Tennessee, a couple of months ago. You know, you can literally count which I counted like 3 or 4 strategic locations where you could tell that there are prominent populations of,
Bad guys.
yes,
Yep.
that are doing intelligence collection points and so on and so forth. And the trucking industry is involved in all of this.
Oh my, yeah. Let me
right.
tell you.
So it's like you can count these, and that's just along I-40, not to mention all the other roadways.
I can tell you this. I've yet to run into a syndicate that we busted with Caleb House that didn't have a freight component, that there wasn't a trucking company attached to.
Yep.
Got to move people.
100%.
And that's to say nothing against the good truckers out there, but all of our over-the-road truck drivers, A, I know you've seen wrecks, and B, I know you've met some co-drivers, some other drivers. You're like, that guy's a piece of trash. And I don't even know why he's a piece of trash, but that guy is a piece of trash.
Yep.
Because we have discernment from the spirit, unlike the robots.
Right.
So, all right, back to this attack. I live 1 mile from this. While the FBI is currently calling it a terror attack, our police chief is waiting for more information to determine that. More info in a press conference this evening. Reminder for all of us to keep our heads on a swivel and be prepared. Prayers out to the injured people, their families, the witnesses in our town. Recently attended a leadership conference. This was before Ukraine dropped the Russian bombers. The conference focused on how we need to update the military and start training based on what we're seeing with Russia and Ukraine. That's part of why I think the special military operation in Ukraine has been allowed to happen, if not made to happen, is it's an investment in relearning the third generation conventional warfare tactics, techniques, and procedures that we lost since World War II.
Yeah.
We're going to let, we, not us, but our leadership is going to let Ukrainians bleed and die rather than Americans, so we can, because we have had special military advisors over there since 2014. To gather all that data, collate all that data. I mean, for example, just the loss of the golden hour in Ukraine. The Department of Defense now has an entire updated prolonged field care doctrine based upon the war in Ukraine, which hadn't been touched since Vietnam.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we don't need prolonged field care when we have air superiority. We do when we don't have air superiority. So that's part of why I think Ukraine, from our standpoint, it was worth for the Department of Defense investing a couple $100 billion to learn those lessons in real time, which tells me that they anticipate a large-scale third-generation war or fifth-generation, combining all of these things, trench warfare, plus drones, plus mechanized armor, plus, fighters and bombers, plus cyber attacks, plus. It's going to get ugly. And see my earlier comments about and I'm not a special person, I can take the United States, not that I'm going to, Fed boys, simmer down. I like electrons too, okay? But I, knowing what I know, can take the United States electrical grid offline with quadcopter attacks.
Yeah.
And if I can do it, that means lots of other people can too.
Anybody with enough knowledge of the infrastructure.
It ain't that hard.
Yeah.
And that's the point. It's not that hard. And the average person is just traipsing through life like everything's fine without taking the necessary steps to prepare adequately for the preservation of life for themselves and their loved ones, which is the basis of this channel. That's what we're about. You need a hedge of protection against chaos. That's what preparedness is. So, all right. The focus was on China at this conference. More than once we were told, quote, China is planning and prepping for a hot war with the United States, end quote. The speakers made it sound like 2027 is the target year. We were led to believe this is the timeline China is telling the military. P.S. Last year, the Oklahoma National Guard started building a trench warfare training site. I'm not sure of the timeline for completion, but the Pentagon has shown interest in the project and already started scheduling units for training. So, fourth witness on trench warfare training. Investing millions, billions of dollars in training trench warfare, which means The Department of Defense sees that as a viable threat because they're training for it.
That's a serious concern. That's, I mean, you take a look at just our own previous experience, you know, doing Op 4. That's, I mean, that's a shit show.
They suck. The trenches
It's
suck.
terrible.
The first night we were out there, the TRAFFICKING guy was like, "Get in the trench." I was like, "No." And he goes, "What do you mean, no?" I said, "This is a real world scenario, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, in the real world, I would never get in that trench." And he goes, "Well, what would you do?" I said, "I'd take my boys and we go patrol that hillside, knowing that somebody's going to hit the trench." And he goes, "Okay, we'll go patrol then."
Yep.
And the remainder of that story doesn't need to be told on air, but you're almost guaranteed death being in that trench. It's just a matter of time. Iowa National Guard members just started posting on Facebook that they're being called to duty in Israel within 2 weeks. To your earlier comments about humanitarian missions that the National Guard goes on, why? Why are we sending our people over there, Jode?
Political, brother.
Would you send your kids over there?
Nope.
Would you send your kids over there?
Not even. No.
I also would not send my kids over there. My son wanted to join the military. Like, that was his career arc. We had a lot of conversation, and we know a lot of people in the military and prior service. And a lot of these brothers came to him and was like, "It's not what it used to be. Don't do it." And it's like, "Why do you want to join the military?" And it's like, well, because he's a strong, smart kid who likes being outdoors and likes doing tough stuff, and he likes firearms and tactics and all of that. And like, dozens of our brothers were like, "We can train you on all of that.
Yeah.
Don't go do that." And that's again, not to take away from anyone who is currently serving in the military, and it's serving in the military.
Right. And thank you for that.
100%.
If you're watching, thank you. Yeah.
To the extent that we have freedoms in the United States of America, it's because good men and women go and do things, put their life on the line that guarantees us that freedom here. And I'm very appreciative of that. But when I have guys who have done careers in the Army, in the Navy, in the Marine Corps, in the Air Force, you know, no Space Force dudes, but all coming up to my son saying, "Hey, is it okay if I talk to your son?" Like, "Yes, please. You know, I'd like to know the reality of the situation too." And they're all like, "Don't do it. It's not what it was." That says a lot.
Yeah.
So it's not the military, it's the government and mismanagement in the government that has wrecked the military and wrecked what America was. For sure.
That's a great word.
I mean, I used to, wonder, did I take the appropriate path and everything like that? Because before Lauren and I got married, I was 2 weeks away from leaving for basic, and I was going to go be a SEAL. That was in my mind. That was it. And yeah, I mean, even back then, some of my best friends were currently operating. And, you know, the friends that I have now and the people that I have the opportunity to be acquainted with are like, "I'm so glad you didn't. You wouldn't be the person that you are now." And like all of these things, you're better off that you didn't do it, knowing the things that they had to endure and seeing the trajectory of what one's career was versus what it is now is vastly different.
Well, and we've our tip of the spear guys, we've overused, we've overdeployed, and we've broken a lot of them. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Right.
And it's one of the honors of my lifetime that I've lost count of how many of those guys we've got to take over here into the lake. and give them back to the
Praise
Father,
Yah, man.
right? And so I had a friend named Chris years ago while global war on terror was like hot and heavy. And he called me up one time. He was in the Army. He's in Afghanistan. And he called me up just frantic, in tears, the whole nine. And he was like, T, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, what's up? What do you got? And he goes, they're sending me back. I was like, what? You just got back? He goes, I know. They're sending me back. I was like, can they do that? And he goes, I've been told. I've got orders. I'll leave in 30 days. And I'm like, okay. He'd been deployed 7 times already. And he's like, I need to go back with my brothers. But if I leave, when I return, if I return, I will have no wife and I will have no children. And my wife is pregnant right now. And I don't know what to do. And he was actively talking about committing suicide while on the phone with me. He's like, I think I should just kill myself because both of these options suck. He's like, I don't want to go. He's like, I'm tired of wiping out villages. He's like, we're not protecting freedom. He goes, what I'm doing over there is murder. And if I don't go, then I'll be in violation of UCMJ. But if I do go, if I come back, I will have no family. And he's like, and I'm already, he's like, I'm in a bad place. I'm already broken. And if they send me back, I'm just going to be more broken than I am right now. He's like, so there's no good option here. He's like, I think I'm just going to check out. And I was at least able to talk him off the ledge that time. Yeah. And he went back to Afghanistan and he was gone, I don't know, 7 months or so. He came back. We talked a couple of times and I've lost touch with him. I don't know what has happened to him. But we have, in many cases, asked too much of those people. Yeah. And they've given a lot. Not even the guys who came home. People don't realize how much they've given. The physical toll, the spiritual toll, the mental toll. One of our guys, I was messaging him this morning. I said, hey, you are on my heart this morning. I just want you to know I'm praying for you. He messaged me back. He's like, I'm not crying. You're crying. Thank you. You know? And these are studs, specimens of humanity, right? Yeah. But everybody's got a gas tank. Mm-hmm. You can only take so much. Yep. And the idea of doing that to one of my kids on behalf of a nation state somewhere else, right? I just can't stomach it anymore. And I think part of it is because I've very much so seen through the fog of propaganda that creates these existential crises over and over and over again, where we must go to war and do this thing, or Russia will destroy us, or Iran will destroy us, or China will destroy us. I think China's a threat. I think Russia's a threat. I think Iran is something that can be handled with the United States Air Force. But elsewhere, going back to how many Middle Eastern wars do I have to have in my lifetime? 2's enough. Yeah. I think 2's enough. And call me selfish, call me a coward, call me whatever you want. I don't want my son to go over there and die for some other nation that is not an existential crisis to us. Yeah. And that would not be proper stewardship for me. So, all right. I'm about 45 minutes northwest of Baltimore and Washington, D.C. I've been seeing an increase in military air traffic over the past week. Several Chinooks have been spotted, as well as jet formations. Unsure what kind of jets, though. They've been flying in groups of 3, flying in a wedge or an arrow shape. None of the aircraft appear to have been flying particularly fast or in a way that indicated they were responding to something. All air traffic has been observed moving from south-southeast headed north-northwest. All air traffic has been observed between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern. Despite the close proximity to Washington, D.C. and a litany of other military installations in the area, we in my county typically don't see military aircraft very often, which is why this has been noteworthy. That's the national intel. If you want to send in your national intel, you send it to intel@bearindependent.com. That's the show for today. It was a long one. How long was that, Dud?
That was 1 hour and 36 minutes.
Felt like it. Sorry, guys. Hey, let me know in the chat. Do you like the long format, or do you not like the long format? So we can try and do better next time. But we do have some stuff going on at Refuge. You want to tell them what it is, Heath? Here, hold this. You'll look cool while you tell them.
Oh man, I'm drawing a blank on everything.
So there's Father's Day is coming.
Oh yeah. There's was it Dad 20?
Yep.
Dad 20. Use Dad 20 for your promo code to get 20% off of this incredible bear fac. All kits. It's really all kits across the board. So if you think
Hold that.
the dad in your life needs an EDC to, for the slick kit that I carry on my person, that's my chosen IFAC to carry on my person. T, he chooses the ankle kit.
By the way, shout out to Covert Threads. Love these guys. Yeah, that's the ankle kit 0.0 right there. That's the original. Still in T&E.
Or if you need a kit for your car, we've got the travel fac.
Mm-hmm.
If you need a cool guy kit for your battle belt or whatever, we've got the SOB, of course, the bear fac here, and the what is it called, the op fac. I've got one of those recently. That thing is awesome.
We've also got some classes coming up.
Yeah,
public
we do.
Classes. We have a lot of private classes, but we've got some public classes coming up.
Do we have any slots open for the 22nd there?
Yeah, there's a few seats left for the 22nd.
It's 20% off right now.
Is it?
And it stacks with the Dad 20 code.
Wow.
Don't tell the CEO.
You get 20% off your training and 20% off your kit.
Yeah.
I
Guys.
don't feel like I should say that on the internet.
Listen,
Heath?
say it.
Take advantage.
Well, they can't hear what they're saying because we're close.
Okay, so take advantage of it. We've got a Father's Day deal going on. We do have the June 22nd class that's coming up, and that's actually going to be in our
new classroom.
Our new classroom, which we affectionately call the rec room, and so that's going to be kind of a grand opening for that whole thing. So if you want to be a part of that, guys, please come to training, learn how to utilize your gear, and potentially save a life.
And
again,
that one class you can use Responder 20 on for 20% off.
and that stacks with Dad 20 on your kit.
That one class, June 22nd, you can use Responder 20 on.
That one class.
There is, I think, 2 seats left for Kentucky Sustainable Living. No? Is it one seat left for Kentucky Sustainable Living, the bleeding control class there.
So it could be wrong. It might be sold out.
If you find it sold out, you call the store, talk to me. I know the general manager. And there's only 13 slots left for Wilderness Responder.
That's the one right there.
And Grindstone is going to close us out. So hit refugemedical.com. If you have any questions for kits or training, just go to refugemedical.com. There's a phone number there you can call. You can shoot us an email, or you can hit the live chat in the store, which goes to a real person, not an AI chatbot. We have gone out of our way to humanize every aspect of what we do here. We are pro people. So refugemedical.com, kits, training. Take care of Dad. Don't get him another tie. Don't get him, like, grill tools are cool, like, once every 5 years, because we're going to lose the tongs. And if you're not clacking the tongs before you flip the chicken on the grill, you're probably, like, you're a robot.
That's true.
You have to clack the tongs, right?
Yeah, that'll work.
Yep, 2 to 3 clacks before.
It's what makes them work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, Dad already has a watch. He doesn't need another tie. He's already got the grill tools. You know, a nice bottle of bourbon's cool if you're into that. But give him the gift of life, something that he'll actually use, something that increases the safety of your entire family, because 100,000 people died at work during the global war on terror.
Yeah.
2.6 million workplace injuries last year. Just last year, 2.6 million. So give him a gift that he'll actually like, something that has actual utilities, not something that's going to take up space on the shelf or end up on Facebook Marketplace, refugemedical.com. And with that, let's hear from Kyle at Grindstone.
Good morning, everyone. Kyle's Grindstone. I just give a little state of Grindstone recap over the past few months. We've been incredibly busy, and coming into June here, almost middle of June already, and had some storms roll through my AO last night. Luckily, it looks like everything's okay. A couple trees down here and there, nothing too bad. I just want to talk about kind of the forward plans and what what all we have coming up. We do have some training opportunities coming up for Grindstone volunteers, and those will be coming out here pretty soon. Probably over the next 2 weeks, I hope to get those out. Our volunteer handbook is finally done. That'll be published on our website with all of our SOPs and everything. So those that are out there wondering how to do what we do, that'll be available to you guys out there. We have some really interesting opportunities coming up that I can't talk about right now and hope to talk about pretty soon that will be game-changing for Grindstone, and hope you guys will pray for us on that. Everything comes together if it's the Father's will. We're really sitting in a good spot as far as all of the resources that we have and everything that we need, but that's just a month-by-month basis. If we continue to deploy, we're going to need those donations to keep coming in. We still need a few items to reach our goals on the shower trailer. We still need some donations to get where we need as far as vehicles and equipment. But appreciate each and every one of you for donating to us and taking the time to talk to us. There was some stuff going around as far as like after actions of Helene and what we learned, lessons learned, and things that people wanted to know about. And the biggest two takeaways that I took away from Hurricane Helene were have a water plan and have a way to communicate. Have multiple ways to communicate. With a water plan, it's something as simple as water storage that can't be washed down a river. So many people don't realize the volume of water and how much that water rose. But you can get on the USGS websites, and there's a water resource that shows the floodplains. And if you are in a 1,000-year floodplain or below, then have an escape plan, have a way to get out quickly. And if you don't, formulate one. As far as storing water, going back to that real quick, the best way to store water, best rule of thumb is 3 gallons per person per day. And having that water available, having enough water to last you a month or 3 months or a year. You can never have enough water stored. Absolutely can never have enough water stored. I know that I'm lacking here at the farm, but we're making steps towards increasing that, and hopefully here soon have enough for at least 2 months of stored water in tanks, not including the pond, not including the creek and stuff like that. Having multiple water sources keeps you from getting that water contaminated by any outside contaminants, whether it be runoff or chemical or some, heaven forbid, some form of terrorism or anything like that. The other thing is communication. Have a way to communicate. Not only your cell phones. Whenever your cell phones go down, I know that got to change hands for a second. Whenever the cell phones go down, do you have backups? Do you have Wi-Fi? Do you have satellite comms? Do you have multiple means of satellite communication? So there's the Starlinks that are just really, really good right now. There are the Zolios or Garmin's or all of those little satellite communicators that everybody uses. And having those available just makes a big difference whenever you're able to communicate. But the number one thing to have is a radio and know how to use it. Do you have a radio? Do you have a UHF, VHF, HF? Do you have the license to use it? Do you have the skills to use it? Have you been trained on how to use it? And if you have it, get that training, get that license so you can have that as a capability. Something we're working on in our comms plan for Grindstone right now is getting all of our staff our general ham license. And I would really recommend each of you do that. There's several different tools to be able to do that with. The Ham Study Guide, which is an app on your phone you can use. That's what I'm using right now. And then I think there's a Ham Radio School. It's online. It's a really good resource. I've enjoyed that so far. It kind of gives you some walkthroughs and stuff of everything. What else? You know, it's a beautiful day here for the middle of June. It's not too hot. It's not overbearing. But heat stress, having a way to get cool, having a way to get in the shade, power management, that's something else I took away. A lot of people didn't have ways to cool off or stay warm during Helene because we were going into winter and having heat sources and everything like that. So just think about those things, and maybe we'll do some more videos on that a little bit later. But hope everybody has a blessed day, and appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks to all of our volunteers for coming out over these last few deployments. I'm going to check back in with Tylertown, the folks in Mississippi, the folks in Selmer, and here in London where we were just last week, and just see how everybody's doing. You know, I know one of our folks, friends over in Ada, lost a few more limbs. I'm going to have to go take care of those for them. But other than that, everybody have a blessed day. Shalom.